I want you to think back just for a second to the most magical playground you ever visited as a kid.
Oh, yeah.
Like, really picture it in your mind. You can probably still, smell the wood chips or
Yeah.
feel that faded, kind of chalky plastic.
And the burn of the hot metal slide on a summer afternoon.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Because when you're 7 years old, a playground isn't just a collection of municipal equipment. It's an entire universe.
Right. A simple slide isn't just a slide. It's an escape hatch from a doomed submarine or whatever.
A swing set is a flying machine soaring over a canyon.
It's a dedicated space where the physical world, it basically bends entirely to your imagination. The boundaries of reality are completely porous.
Right.
And that porosity is entirely by design.
And that porous boundary between the physical and the imaginary is really the core of what we were exploring in today's deep dive. So, welcome. I'm your host, and I'm joined as always by our resident expert to break all this down.
Glad to be here.
We are looking at an excerpt today from a vibrant children's story. It's called Rainbow Rocket Park and the Color Planet Odyssey.
Which is such a fun title.
It really is. Now, if you just glance at the cover, you're going to think this is a charming, simple tale about three friends going on a space adventure.
Sure, just a standard kids book.
Yeah, but our mission today is to look at how this story actually serves as a brilliant, highly structured blueprint for experiential learning.
Yeah, it's actually incredibly deep when you look closely.
Exactly. Because whether you are trying to teach a 5-year-old about art or you are an adult trying to, learn a complex new professional skill, this story maps out the literal mechanics of human curiosity.
Which is such a vital topic for all of us. Because as adults, you and I often default to thinking of learning as something that happens passively.
Like sitting at a desk.
Right, sitting at a desk, staring at a textbook, watching a screen. But this story illustrates a completely different pedagogy.
It really breaks down how knowledge is physically gathered.
Yeah, gathered, experimented with, and ultimately celebrated. I mean, it is basically a masterclass in the neurobiology of how human beings actually retain information.
Okay, let's unpack this by looking at how the author sets the stage. Because the architecture of the environment dictates the behavior of the characters.
Definitely.
We are introduced to Rainbow Rocket Park, situated on the edge of Sunshine City. And the author gives us this incredibly evocative list of equipment.
Right, the descriptions are great.
We have a rocket-shaped slide, a moon-bounce trampoline, planet-shaped swings.
Which sound amazing, by the way.
I know, I want to play on them. And a climbing wall that looks like a giant textured rainbow.
Let's pause on the architectural intent there, though, because the design of the park itself is inherently aspirational.
How do you mean?
Well, by shaping a slide like a rocket or a trampoline like the moon, the environment is priming the user for a specific type of narrative play.
Ah, gotcha.
It's whispering to the kids, you are not just in a municipal park, you are on the edge of the cosmos. The physical space is actively inviting action, and more importantly, it's inviting risk-taking.
Right. And that invitation to take a risk is the catalyst for the whole story. We meet our three protagonists, Ava, Noah, and Milo.
And they are just buzzing with excitement.
Totally. They show up, ready to try out the brand new Rainbow Rocket, and right at the entrance they find this shiny sign reading, Future Space Explorers Only.
I love Ava's reaction to that.
Me too. Ava just laughs and declares, I think we qualify. So they climb into the cockpit of this colorful rocket, and, well, we get our inciting incident.
The big moments.
Yep. Noah, acting completely impulsively, just presses a massive glowing button on the control panel.
As you do.
Right. The rocket goes beep, beep, and Noah immediately freezes, looks around and asks, was I supposed to do that?
That right there is the universal panic of anyone who has ever clicked a suspicious link at work.
Oh, man, yeah.
Or, tried to fix a line of code and watch the whole website crash.
It really is.
Yeah.
But here is where I want to challenge the narrative a bit.
Okay, go for it.
If you think about traditional cautionary tales or strict classroom settings or even corporate environments, that kind of blind impulsivity is exactly how you end up in the principal's office.
Or how you get fired.
Exactly. It's almost always punished. So why is Noah's total lack of impulse control rewarded by the author here?
What's fascinating here is how the story fundamentally validates the mechanism of childhood curiosity, which is, at its core, rooted in trial and error.
Right.
The narrative completely rejects the idea that pressing the unknown button is a punishable offense. Instead of a scolding, the environment turns a breach of the unknown into an extraordinary journey.
So no alarms go off.
Nope. The response to his impulsivity isn't a loud, angry siren. It's a countdown. 3, 2, 1, blast off.
And with a massive whoosh, the playground rocket zooms into actual literal space.
Yeah, they are surrounded by twinkling stars. Milo shouts, "We're really flying."
So it basically takes the hypothetical what if and makes it their reality.
Precisely. By rewarding Noah's action with a magical adventure rather than a punitive consequence, the story establishes a world with absolute psychological safety.
Psychological safety. That's a huge buzzword right now.
It is, but it's important. It tells the reader that it is safe to interact with the unknown. If you want people, whether they are children on a playground or adults in a boardroom, to be innovative, you have to create environments where pressing the metaphorical glowing button leads to discovery, not disaster.
Because if we're terrified of messing up,
Exactly. When we fear consequence, our amygdala triggers a stress response that literally shuts down the learning centers in our prefrontal cortex.
wow, so it's biological.
Totally. Psychological safety is the biological prerequisite for learning.
So the playground establishes the safety. But, I mean, safety alone doesn't create learning, right?
No, definitely not.
To actually acquire knowledge, you need some sort of framework, which is exactly what happens when the rocket leaves the safety of the park and lands in the unknown.
Yes. The story shifts gears from the thrill of the launch to the structured acquisition of data. It frames the learning process as an active quest.
And we see that resource gathering phase immediately.
Yeah.
They land first on a tiny planet where absolutely everything is bright
The
red.
grass is red, the trees are red.
Everything. And they meet this friendly alien who hands them a glowing red crystal and gives them a very clear directive. The alien says, collect the colors to power your rocket home.
Simple and clear.
Right. Then they repeat this process. They fly to the yellow planet, they're handed a yellow crystal. They fly to the blue planet, they get a blue crystal.
It establishes a clear, repeatable loop of data collection.
Okay, wait, I actually have an issue with this.
Oh.
Yeah. If this whole story is a celebration of the magic of unstructured, imaginative free play, why does the alien literally hand them a crystal and give them step-by-step instructions?
It does seem a little
It feels incredibly rigid for a wild space adventure. Doesn't that completely contradict the idea of raw, free exploration?
It seems contradictory on the surface, sure, but it's actually a brilliant illustration of how the brain manages cognitive load.
Cognitive load.
Yeah. When you are thrust into a completely new environment, your working memory, the part of your brain that holds and processes new information, has a very strict capacity limit.
Okay.
If the alien just said, figure out how to fly the ship, the kids would be completely paralyzed by the infinite possibilities.
So they would just freeze up because there's too much data to process at once.
Exactly. The story isolates the variables to prevent cognitive overload. First planet, only red. Second planet, only yellow. Third planet, only blue.
Oh, I see.
It's a rigorous categorization exercise disguised as an adventure. The alien provides the structure so the children can successfully acquire the fundamental data points of art.
The primary colors.
Right. You have to gather the facts before you can synthesize them.
That makes total sense. It's sort of like trying to cook a gourmet meal. Well, you can't just throw a novice chef into a massive, empty commercial kitchen and say, okay, go innovate, make something delicious.
Right, they'd panic.
You have to give them the flour, the sugar, and the butter first. The red, yellow, and blue crystals are basically their basic pantry ingredients.
That is a perfect analogy. The story recognizes that gathering those base ingredients isn't the end goal of learning, but it is an absolute non-negotiable prerequisite.
You have to have the tools.
Yes, you cannot skip the structured resource gathering if you want to solve complex puzzles later.
Which brings us to the moment where having those ingredients becomes critical. They've gathered the red, yellow, and blue crystals, but a pantry full of flour and sugar is useless if you don't know how to bake.
Right.
They have to operationalize this data to solve their immediate problem, which is getting back home.
The stakes are formally introduced. Now the knowledge must be applied.
The kids get back into the cockpit, and the rocket's computer beeps, color challenge activated. And the screen brings up 3 empty circles. Yeah. Now, earlier it was Noah who impulsively pressed the launch button. But here, Ava steps up as the thoughtful, analytical problem solver.
I love her approach here.
She looks at the 3 crystals, she looks at the 3 empty circles, and she formulates a hypothesis based on her tools. She asks, what happens if we mix colors?
She transitions from a passive collector of objects to an active experimenter.
And the story explicitly walks us through the math of the magic. Ava places the red and yellow crystals together. flash.
Share.
Orange appears in the circle, and Noah cheers.
Immediate feedback.
Exactly. Then they mix the blue and yellow crystals, and they get green. Finally, they mix the red and blue, and they get purple. Here's where it gets really interesting to me.
Yeah.
The rocket chimes, puzzle complete. The author uses this high-stakes scenario to literally teach basic color theory.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the pedagogical brilliance here is rooted in constructivist learning theory. Ava isn't just recalling information.
Hold on, let me stop you right there. Before we go any further, what exactly is constructivist learning theory in plain English? Are we just talking about learning by doing?
Essentially, yes, but it goes deeper than just doing. Constructivist theory argues that humans don't just passively receive knowledge. We actively construct it by experiencing things and reflecting on those experiences.
Okay, that makes sense.
From a neuroscience perspective, when you just read that red and yellow make orange, your brain forms a very weak, superficial neural pathway.
Like cramming for a test and forgetting it the next day.
Exactly. But when you are presented with a problem and you have to physically combine the red and yellow elements to generate the orange yourself, you are engaging multiple areas of the brain.
Like motor skills, visual processing.
Problem-solving centers, all of it. You form a dense, robust neural network.
So it's the difference between looking at the answer key in the back of a math book versus sweating through the algebra equation yourself.
Exactly. The children in the story don't just learn about secondary colors, orange, green, and purple. They act as alchemists and create them out of thin air.
Which feels like magic to them.
Right. Synthesis is a higher-order cognitive skill. It's one thing to be able to identify the color red. It is an entirely different, vastly superior level of mastery to realize that red can be leveraged and combined with yellow to birth something entirely new.
By framing the creation of those secondary colors as the literal engine of their salvation, the story proves the utility of the knowledge.
Utility and synthesis. If you are learning a new coding language or a complex software tool at your job, watching a video tutorial will only get you so far.
You forget it as soon as you close the tab.
Yeah. The knowledge doesn't become permanent until you try to build a project, hit a wall, and have to synthesize two different functions to make the program work.
So they've synthesized the data, they've powered the engine, they've solved the problem. Structurally, you would expect the story to roll the credits right here.
Because the transaction is complete.
Right. But there is a missing biochemical component to this learning process.
There is, and it's a crucial pivot that most adult learning environments completely ignore.
So they're flying back, and Milo spots a giant rainbow button on the console.
Another button.
Yes. Remember, Noah started this whole thing by pressing a button, which launched the structured quest. Now Milo hits one, he says, I wonder what this does, and just smacks it.
Naturally.
P.O.P. Whoosh! Thousands of shimmering rainbow bubbles burst out everywhere inside the cabin.
Just utter chaos.
Beautiful chaos. One lands right on Noah's nose, popping with a little tickle. Another sits on Ava's head like a colorful soapy hat.
I love that image.
And Milo's laughing so incredibly hard, he almost floats out of his zero-gravity seat, declaring it the funniest spaceship ever. Now, why include this?
It seems like filler, right?
Yeah, the educational puzzle is already solved. The ship is flying home. Why do we need the rainbow bubbles?
This raises an important question about the role of emotion and how your brain processes and stores long-term information.
Emotion.
Yeah. From a neurobiological standpoint, humor and pure joy are incredible memory aids. When you laugh, when you experience a moment of sudden delight, your brain releases a surge of dopamine.
The feel-good chemical.
Yes, but dopamine isn't just about feeling good. In the context of learning, dopamine acts like a save button for your brain.
Oh, wow. A save button.
It strengthens the communication between the amygdala, which processes emotion, and the hippocampus, which is responsible for long-term memory consolidation. It chemically signals to your brain that whatever sequence of events just occurred is highly valuable and needs to be retained.
So the bubbles aren't just silly filler.
No.
They are the biochemical glue that makes the lesson about primary and secondary colors stick in their minds permanently.
Precisely. The silly surprise solidifies the entire grueling process of resource gathering and problem solving as a deeply positive, emotionally resonant event.
If you've ever sat through a dry, 3-hour corporate training seminar where a presenter just monotonously clicked through 100 slides, you know exactly what the author's trying to avoid here.
Absolutely. There's no dopamine in a sterile slide deck.
None at all.
If the story had ended right after the puzzle was solved, the tone would be purely transactional. You do the work, you survive, you go home.
It's just business.
Right. But by adding the rainbow bubbles, the story argues that the ultimate reward for curiosity and problem solving isn't just utility. The ultimate reward is joy.
I love that.
It demonstrates that a true learning environment is one of abundance, not just strict efficiency.
The reward for learning is joy, which brings us to the final descent. The rocket lands gently back at Rainbow Rocket Park, right on the edge of Sunshine City.
Back to reality.
Yep. The hatch opens, the kids climb out, and physically the environment looks exactly the same as it did an hour ago. The slide is just a slide.
The rainbow climbing wall is just a wall.
But cognitively, these three kids are fundamentally changed.
Their internal map of how the universe operates has expanded.
Because they learned that mixing foundational elements creates brand new elements. And the proof that the learning cycle was successful is in their reaction at the end.
They want more.
Exactly. As they walk away, Noah smiles and says, "Can we come back tomorrow?" And Ava grins and says, "I hope the rocket has another surprise waiting for us."
They aren't fatigued by the cognitive load. They are hungry for the next challenge.
Because the process was intrinsically motivating. They weren't graded on a rubric. They were empowered by their own agency.
Exactly.
So, what does this all mean for you and me? If we look at the explicit surface lessons from this text, we have the identification of primary colors and the synthesis of those into secondary colors.
The basics of art.
Right. But layered powerfully beneath that, we have this profound framework for human development. You need an environment with psychological safety that encourages you to press the unknown button.
Without fear of punishment.
Right. And you need structured resource gathering to manage cognitive load. You need to actively synthesize that data to form robust neural pathways. And finally, you need emotional resonance. You need joy to hit the save button on the whole experience.
It is a remarkably elegant packaging of complex developmental psychology disguised as a vibrant story about a playground.
And it's so important to remember that this framework doesn't expire when you turn 18.
Oh, absolutely not.
Gathering basic facts, synthesizing them through careful experimentation, and making sure you allow room for joy and silliness.
Yeah.
That is a perfect scientifically backed model for tackling any adult project, mastering a new hobby, or learning a new professional skill.
The mechanics of your brain don't change just because you put on a suit and commute to an office.
Yeah. The need for resource gathering, active synthesis, and emotional resonance is a lifelong biological imperative.
Well said.
Which leaves us with something really fascinating to consider as we wrap up today's deep dive. In the story, Rainbow Rocket Park provided the physical cues, the colorful signs, the aspirational architecture, the big glowing buttons.
All your prompts.
Yeah, they gave Ava, Noah, and Milo the explicit permission to explore, to make mistakes, and to experiment without fear. It was a physical manifestation of psychological safety. So, think about your own daily environment. What would a playground for adult learning and innovation actually look like in our modern workplaces, or even in our homes?
That's a great question.
Have we, in our relentless adult drive for efficiency and professionalism, accidentally designed all the glowing buttons out of our daily lives? And if we have, how can you start building those escape hatches back in?